Hi there, this is Daniel Houghton, the director of this short animation, Mad River Rising, and I'm here with Dana Yeaton, the original playwright of the full-length play, who then adapted it into this 13-minute short film.
Mad River Rising. I remember the day we named it in rehearsal, and it was just after the big ice storm in '98. It was in production at the Royal Tyler Theatre, Vermont Stage Company did the first production, and then we took it on the barnstorming tour, 7 or 8 barns around the state in 1999. So we had a play set in a barn.
I asked Dana if he would consider adapting it into a 5-minute short film, and he said sure. And I'm thinking of this because I'm looking at a drawing right now that took the artist, Sam Tolzman, about 8 hours to produce. I said, can you make a 5-minute short film? And he said, sure. And he came back to me with a 15-minute script. So we had our first production problem challenge to overcome, and it was an exciting one.
I feel like I need to defend myself on this one because I knew it was too long, and I came back and said, hey, Daniel, it's too long. Tell me what we're going to cut. And I remember, and I think this makes you look good. He said, we're not going to cut it. This is a story. Story rules. And we're going to do whatever we have to get that whole thing on film.
Which then led us to wonder, well, how are we going to pull this off? We have 1 month and 7 students and a heck of a lot of drawings to create. And what followed was a big discussion about how much we could animate and how much should remain perfectly still. Could we pull off the whole story if we had to with just still images? And when we realized that we could, it felt like we could take on the project without cutting the script down.
Of course, the students signed up for animation, so they had no interest in doing stills. So, so folks ended up with specialties. So, for instance, those birds are all done by a girl from Rochester. The man is done by a freshman girl.
Mm-hmm, that's right, Krista Duke. And it seemed right to specialize so that each character could have consistency throughout the piece. Graciella's landscapes and David's water really felt like it was a way to bring this group of young animators who had never animated before in their life through a film without the whole thing feeling discombobulated.
We decided to start in silence and then let his escape from the nursing home be the beginning of music, and those are the other major contributors, collaborators in this. We talked to Anais Mitchell and Michael Chorney, sort of. Well, Anais, my favorite artist on this planet at this point, and Michael Chorney, the kind of Quincy Jones of producing and orchestrating in Vermont. And they, of course, created Hadestown together, and we had just a little snatch of music from Anais, which you get to hear at the end when she comes in and sings. But we decided it was all about building to a final song that would have lyrics, the only words you'll hear in this piece. And
the musicians too were ready for a 5-minute production, and so they were really wonderful to take on the bigger project and to really find a way to compose in the short time that they had available with Anais's incredibly busy touring schedule and Michael's bustling studio. They still said yes. They probably should have walked away at that point and said, you guys are ridiculous. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't done this before. And you're asking for something 3 times as long. But they said yes anyway. So that was part of what made the project feel pretty special.
And here we let the music stop for just a moment and got the pleasure of desolation.
Because it's a pretty desolate story. It's about this farmer's sort of struggle to get out of his retirement home, which has become a bit of a prison to him, and make one last trip back to the site of the family farm that he grew up on. And a lot's happened to the farm, and a lot's happened to him, and he explores those landscapes outside and in to go on this one last trip.
I love what the artist did, exaggerating these proportions. I mean, never has a ladder been so long to get up to the loft.
Mm-hmm. And the snow, I love the snow. Nora Jones took on the task for a day and a half animating a single snowflake drifting from the top of the screen to the bottom, which we then proceeded to duplicate numerous times. And Dan Whately animated a single streak of rain, which then again became sort of this wall of water.
Listen to this. This is some extraordinary Michael Chorney work here. How does he think of that?
Keep in mind, at this point, all Michael Chorney had was the script, which was 4 pages, single-spaced, with a rough indication of maybe when songs should change. There were no drawings, except for a few rough sketches for him to look at this point. So he composed the whole soundscape for this world before it existed. And that, too, was a feat to pull off.
That valley reminds me of Rochester, my sort of adoptive home, and a couple stories that I've ended up writing. And of course, this was adapted after after Irene hit, and Rochester became one of those towns stranded and sort of famous for their democratic response, the way the community came together as an epic effort of community to take care of itself. But I often think, as I look down these valleys, about a scene like this, imagining going back, imagining those buildings that have bowing ridges, actually having the ridge straighten and having the buildings reconstruct themselves. So this was quite a dream for me to write something that didn't happen on stage, where reality rules to some extent, and where all we had to do was touch off the imagination of the artists, and anything could happen. You can get the sun to come out. You can get a bird to go wherever you want.
Didn't you read the first draft of the script in Rochester, too?
Yeah, at their annual night before Christmas. So then we got to send this over there when it was done and say, see, we weren't kidding.
And the whole project was underway in July, at least the pre-production stage of it, long before Irene began. So it was very eerie to see the coincidence of Irene coming as we'd already begun this story of a flood.
Well, another coincidence was that I wasn't sure how long ago, but it turns out that it was spring of '09. Anais gave me this little snatch of a tune, and we just talked about it as something that we might use someday. And then it was called All the Little Birds, and that started to inform what this adaptation would bring in. It sort of brought in another character, a family of characters that helped shape the narrative, and add, I guess, another character. It made it into a dialogue of sorts. It made it into a drama, because we start getting involved, I think, with, how cute are they? How could anything bad ever happen to them?
And there weren't birds in the original play, right?
No.
But they play sort of a major character in this animation. Marcella's birds really that was also another key moment when I realized we can pull this off, because it was fun to dream about this project with Dana throughout the summer and over the fall to see him write it, and then for us to pre-produce it. But the biggest question mark remained, which was can a group of students who have never animated a thing in their life before take on this massive project that's bigger than we planned on it being, and pull it off with any degree of success. And was it going to feel like a student project where we gave it a pretty good try, or was it actually going to work? And it was seeing some of these first drawings of the birds and the barn, Dylan's barn, and the old man and the young boy that started to really thrill me when I realized that we were actually going to be able to do it. That it wouldn't it wouldn't only get halfway there.
The flood. So the play takes place in the loft, and he talks about what happened in 27. And there's a line in the play, a phrase, which is that someone refers to the barn as an upside-down ark. And I guess in this story, upside down becomes right side up.
And the old man who leaves the safety and comfort of his retirement home goes on this journey, and it is quite a journey because he dies at the end of it. And it blew my mind how long it took to convince Krista, the artist drawing the old man, that he did in fact die, and he did in fact have to die, and that she had to draw him dead.
And here's our moment. If we had to do over again, we might, because some people think that's water. But we want that to be that he becomes covered in hay. So the framing device, which we would have cut in the shorter version, there wouldn't have been a nursing home in the shorter version. We thought someone needed to notice he was gone.
We talked to you about Anais's voice because it's a bit of a character in the film,
Yeah.
and you know, should she sing more, sooner, throughout? And I'm very glad that we chose to wait for it.
Yeah. And even to have her sing no lyrics for the first verse, you're just dying to hear what's next.
All the little birds will come again when winter ends. When winter ends, they'll come.
And that's the kind of thing you can do in animation that you can't do on stage.
This is the first animation you wrote. That also
Yeah.
thrilled me. Dana took on this project having also never done an animation. He's a playwright, and I thought, oh God, is he gonna screw this up and give us a verbose talky piece? And what he gave us was just 4 pages of images and physical actions and gestures that were perfect for us to start drawing.
All the little birds.
Makes you want to always collaborate. Why work alone?